Does it give you a little bit of extra swagger, Dowder, to knock off the reigning Stanley Cup champs? I mean, that has to feel good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I not one time did I think that they were, remember that, they're the reigning Stanley Cup champs.
Right.
That didn't pass through my head once, but I did know going into it that, this team is a really good hockey team and really good goaltending. They're solid throughout all four lines. They match up very well against us. So I knew it was going to be a good test for us, as it was when we played them earlier in the year as well. So,
and they're tops in the Atlantic Division, so you kind of know that going in.
Yeah. They're a really good hockey team, and they've been very good for a while now. So then they have some elite players. So yeah, I knew it was going to be a really good test for us.
Dowder, I'm hesitant to bring this up because I've been accused during our radio career of being a mush or a jinx. But
don't bring it up. Don't say it.
Don't do it?
Don't do it. I don't even know what it is, but I'm a big believer in that stuff.
Really?
All right, good.
Unless you feel okay with it.
Hey, write it down. Can you write it down, and I'll tell you if it's
sure. I'll write it down.
All right.
What's your worst superstition? You think? Do you
have the one that I hate the most, or the one that is the dumbest, or what do you?
Yeah, the dumbest, the one you're most embarrassed by.
I mean, I have a lot. I would say if you probably put me top 2, top 3 on the team with quirky superstitions. Our team is very odd when it comes to these things. It's a hot topic on the Washington Capitals of guys with superstitions. Kind of turned into a little bit of a thing where everyone's watching each other trying to figure things out. But I'd say the one that probably bugs me the most is if we win, I continue to wear I'll wear within reason. I'll wear the same suit the next game.
Yeah.
And that just bugs me because it's just I'd like to change suits, and just if we've been on a couple long winning streaks this year, and
you're wearing the same freaking suit every day.
Yeah, and if you pick the wrong suit, right, now all of a sudden you're in a red suit for 10 days. So it's
all right. So here's what we're gonna do.
So this is not a team prediction or anything.
No.
So you think it's worth?
But here's what we're gonna do. No, here's what.
If you would have said, you shouldn't have said, I don't want to jinx it.
No,
you should have just brought it up.
Decision here.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Jason kind of frame the question for him. That way, I'm kind of off the hook for it.
All right.
You
don't mind taking a bullet for
this
this
doesn't
one.
come back on me.
Dowder, I'll take the bullet if it doesn't happen. But you're on pace to have your best season as a pro.
I knew you guys were going there.
You knew it,
and you just couldn't contain it.
We couldn't help it.
I didn't bring it up.
Hey, we just want to be excited.
But you know what? It's good for you, bro. You're balling. You're balling out.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I don't look at that as a jinx. That's a good. That was a nice thing you guys to say. I appreciate that.
Good.
Let me ask you this about your games played over the last 3 seasons before this year. I mean, it's a remarkably consistent number. 64 last year, 65 the year before, 64 the year prior to that. Now, I remember you were dealing with a core injury. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
That was so I had a core injury 2 years ago, and then I had surgery over the summer, which led me into basically another back core injury last year. Plus I had a concussion, and when you say consistently 65 games, we got to remind the audience that we play 82, and I consistently miss 18 of them. So, but yeah, the NHL is challenging, man. I mean, that's what makes it tough for.
You're playing every other night.
Teams. Yeah, and it makes it tough for teams as a whole, right? You can look across every NHL team, and typically, if your lineup stays relatively healthy, you have a pretty good chance of being successful. And then when it doesn't, it gets a little squirrely at times. And every team is so close to the cap typically that it's tough to trade for guys, call guys up. No one's going to let go of all their top players, right? So it's tough. I mean, it's a grueling season. It's a war of attrition.
Well, I think Cake's point was you're playing all the games now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. I'm definitely trying.
Well, that's why this break coming up after you guys play Utah on Super Bowl Sunday, and then you don't play again till February 22nd. Man, that's nice. That's a nice break.
Yeah, that'll be really good. I think for the mental standpoint, like you guys mentioned, we play every other day, right? So physically, I think it's funny. Physically, if you're not injured, which knock on wood,
right?
We've been able to stay relatively okay, and individually myself, but even then, it's fall into this lull of how you feel, where you're probably sitting at around like 45 to 60% of what your normal body feels like all the time, but that just becomes your new neutral, so it doesn't even really bug you. And then but mentally it's tough, right? Like every other night, getting yourself to a point to play a game where a guy is probably going to try and run you over, and you're trying to score a goal, and the emotions of it, and you go up and down, and so that I find is what separates a lot of guys in the NHL, is trying to stay consistent mentally, because it's tough, man. It makes it really, really challenging, traveling and playing every other night, being away from the family.
Right.
The list goes on. So